Well, as you all can tell, I recently got a hold of Earthspark Deluxe, Aftermath, and Jawbreaker. I figured, why don't I make a video on both of them at the same time, you know? Save a little bit of, well, I guess it doesn't save time, but I'll try to keep it relatively brief. I got both of these off of Amazon. These are the US releases, not the Takara versions, so the paint is different, and they're less accurate to the show, but I haven't watched the show, so that doesn't bother me too much. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll eventually get the Takara repaints, but whatever. We'll move along. Also, I've neglected to mention this in a recent video that I recorded, but I got a pin from Show Z with my last delivery, so got the little tricolor pin, they're calling it. Now that we've shown off the new pin, which is actually not a bad pin, the thing on the back is a little bit off center, just a little bit, but it's pretty decent quality enamel pin. The line work is nice and crisp. The colors are nice and crisp. So yeah, shows these pins that are just like little add-ons you can add to an order. Pretty nice. Anyway, Aftermath and Jawbreaker. These are the deluxe figures, not the warrior class figures, so they're not gimmicky. They're just transforming figures. It's about what you expect with the Earthspark Deluxe, with like other Earthspark Deluxes, in that the plastic quality is maybe a little bit thinner than like Legacy Deluxes or the Legacy figures in general, but they're not bad. They don't feel like brittle or cheap or anything like that. They just feel a little bit lighter, a little bit more hollow than something out of Legacy. But these are also $5 cheaper. These are like $19.99 each. So yeah, they're relatively more affordable. And let us start by looking at Aftermath, and he's got this tow truck which looks the part. It's kind of a twisted, like, at first I was thinking Mad Max, but really this is more of like a twisted metal tow truck, which I'm actually more interested in. Color separation is pretty decent, where it's, you know, got the gray towards the back and the purple towards the front. I do like, though, that the fender is in a different color and has these silver painted spikes on it. That's really cool. And also I like these little silver details that they picked out along the sides here. The little darker purple on top of the lighter purple up here. I wish this carried over to either side here. That is a little bit disappointing, but whatever. And then, of course, like black for the windows, silver up along all here. The differences between this and the Japanese version, it's just like these gray bits are like black, and there's some other painted details that you don't really get a difference. There aren't really many differences in truck mode, but there are more in robot mode. It comes together pretty nicely. There's definitely a gap down here, but that doesn't really bother me at all. And I appreciate the fact that the gun actually stores in vehicle mode to become like a tailpipe. He rolls pretty well. Actually, he rolls incredibly well, despite the front wheels being, or all the wheels are clipped and not pinned, but he does roll pretty well. And as you saw, the hook on the back, because tow truck, is actually articulated. Goes up and down in several places. The hook also pegs in, so you can twist it, or if you wanted to, peg it in like that. I have it turned around like this specifically for the robot mode, but you can turn it around for vehicle mode. And if you wanted to, let me just bring someone in here. You could kinda. Okay, maybe Burnout is not the best example here. Let me see if the other. I don't think this will work any better either, but try to hook this around. No, that's not going to work. Theoretically, if you have a car with a bumper that is... There we go, that kind of works. So you can do this. The front bumper for Burnout is scraping on the ground. The wheels aren't actually moving, but if you find the right angles, you can hook things and drag them around. Also, this is pegged in, so it does swivel side to side. So overall, pretty tidy little tow truck mode. I like how it's also a little stylized. It's almost cartoony in how short, like small and narrow the actual like interior driving area, like the cabin, whatever this is called, is versus the rest of it. Also, it's got kind of like an old-timey vibe with all these really curved wheel wells and the hood section. I like it. I dig this a lot. I would probably have preferred to get the Takar version, but this was like, $15 to $20. Actually, more like $20 to $40 cheaper than what the Takar version is selling for currently. So I'll take this. And hey, we might get Reaper labels for it eventually. And then Jawbreaker. It's a big orange and yellow Pachycephalosaurus, I think. You can't really do too much in this mode, but it looks the part. I'm not a super big fan of the fists sticking out of the backs of the knees, but when you're looking at them from the front, you don't really notice. You can kind of push these past where they're supposed to go to tuck them more into the leg and then straighten the leg out if you want to do that, but that doesn't really look right to me. So yeah, I would say maybe don't do that. Also, you're probably flexing plastic when you push through there. But I do want to address something I saw in a video recently. You're not supposed to transform the legs like this. You can if you really want to, but it looks terrible. What you actually do is you push these up until they're like basically 90 degrees from the forearms, what will become the forearms. And there is a natural point where it wants to stop. It doesn't click in, but it will stop moving. And then you fold the foot forward until it kind of soft locks into place at a bit of an angle. And when you do that, then you get the proper digitigrade dino legs that I think work a lot better. But yeah, it's for what it is, gets the job done. There's some nice detailing on here that we see more of in robot mode. The proportions are a little weird, but it is what it is. And I think it's actually, relatively accurate to the show from what I understand. It's got his big old bladed tail, and my headphones are screaming at me about a low battery, so let's move this along. The head is nicely sculpted, and I like the paint separation here with the yellow plastic, but then the red dome, the metallic blue face, the purple eyes. You also get an opening mouth. It doesn't open much, but it does open. You can't do anything else with the head. You can look up if you want, but that detransforms it and breaks the sculpt. No left or right motion. All you do is open the mouth. But the little forearms are in ball joints, so they can go in and out and rotate a bit. The hips, if you have them transformed the way they're supposed to be, they don't move, but you can untab them from here, and that allows them to rotate and go in and out. And then up here, you have thigh rotation as well as lower leg rotation. So you have a little bit of posing options for the Dino mode. And yeah, that's kind of it for Jawbreaker. So let's put Jawbreaker and Aftermath over here and bring in our size comparisons. So there is Dinobot and Oviprime and Samus. So there they are with the usual size comparisons, and they're about par with regular deluxes. Well, I guess Jawbreaker is actually more of a Voyager in terms of size, but that's because he kind of sits up, and he he has a big silhouette, but he's not actually like big and beefy. All right, let's bring this in here. There. So that's a little bit more of a close-up on a modern deluxe. And then, of course, here they both are with the duck tank. Now, before we transform these boys, if you like this video or any other video that I've done and you want to support the channel, I've got a Ko-fi and a Patreon, links to both at the end of the video as well as down in the description. Otherwise, you could always do the typical YouTube thing of like, comment, share, subscribe. Now, we are going to start, we'll keep it alphabetical, so we'll start with Aftermath. And Aftermath's transformation is pretty interesting, actually, in how it works. So first I'm going to rotate this hook back around just so that it can fold up closer. It just folds up a little bit closer when you don't have the peg there. But we're going to leave it like that for now. Going to separate the back from the front section. They're just these big tabs up in here that tab in here. So just rotate this back, and those will untab. Now, going to untab the back section and wiggle out the gun, put that off to the side, untab the obvious foot and rotate it 90 degrees so that it's pointing forward. Again, untab, rotate forward. Now, going to untab the thigh from this piece here. There's actually a little tab. It's very little tab in there, but it tabs in. You want to rotate it back on this lower hinge. And kind of can straighten that out as well. And that gives you the room you need to fold this around. So like there's the tab slots for the panel, and there is a tiny tab that it tabs into. So you fold this around, and this will tab together. Then you can straighten out the leg, and there you got a leg. Very simple. It's just a little bit nuanced, but simple enough. And again, close that up, bring that out, and there we go. There we've got legs. Lower body's entirely done now. All right, upper body's a little more complex, but not bad. You want to kind of rotate this way because there is a little tab here that tabs into the cap section. So untab that, and once that's untabbed, you can now pull this down and it untabs from up here. So bring this out and rotate it a little bit. There's the tab that goes in there. Once that's done, you can do the other side. So untab it, and then untab it, and then rotate it a little bit. And now these bits of the bumper separate, and you want to kind of pull down and angle it so that you can untab it from this area right in here. It's a little bit tricky to do, especially going into vehicle mode, but there's this little tab on either side that a slot inside of the underside of the bumper tabs into. Once that's untabbed, you can bring this up on this strut here. This kind of comes up there. You can see the strut. So this comes up and just kind of sits like this. Now we're going to untab the window section, bring that out. Then this entire assembly rotates 180 degrees. Now the window section can collapse on a double hinge, and you want it so that the smokestacks go around either side of this T-shaped piece here. They just kind of sit around that. Okay, now I'm going to just finish the arms. So rotate those around and flip out the fists, and they will click into place. So again, you can flip out the fist and click it into place and rotate it around. You want this piece, this is the front of the arm basically. So leave it like that and rotate these up a little bit. Now the head is tabbed into this little slot in the torso, so you can just kind of untab that and bring that up. There you can kind of see the little notch that tab sits in. So bring that up, and now what you want to do, you do bring this down for the chest, but you actually want to rotate these wheel well sections up first. And they don't have like a super obvious locking point, but what you do is you rotate them up and they will tab into the gray piece up here, right in the corners. So you just bring them up and you kind of want to push down while also pushing these into that gray section, and that will tab everything together pretty securely. And then for the head, it can kind of move. What you want to do is pull up just a little bit, and it'll actually click that head panel into place, and that locks that whole assembly together. You can just push it back in if you're not careful, but just pull up a little bit and it'll click, and that way you won't inadvertently knock the head down by just moving it. And finally, you just take the shoulders and rotate them so that the painted bits are facing forward along those struts, and there we have Aftermath. Oh, also I neglected to mention the back of the torso actually tabs into the these little tabs on the window section go into the back of the torso as well. That helps to lock the torso together in addition to the tabs up here. But yeah, there is Aftermath, and that's a pretty cool transformation. And this is a very cool robot mode that I want to talk more about later, especially because of certain things, which I will get into. But for now, I'm just going to plug the gun into the forearm because we can do that and put him off to the side. And now we're going to take a look at Jawbreaker. And Jawbreaker's transformation is also pretty simple. Not to rotate these guns, they just peg in, but this is where they say to have them for rope or dinosaur mode, so just rotate these up. I like to rotate them up so that they're kind of in line with the spikes. So rotate those up, untab the legs, rotate, or actually no, straighten out the knee, and then rotate the forearm so that the fist is arranged properly. You want the claws facing to the outside. and then you bring the claw down, rotate this in, and the claws will sit over. They don't have like dedicated tab slots, but they will sit over these tabs on the backs of the forearms. And that gives you one forearm. Same deal here, just untap this. It might be easier to rotate the forearm before you bend the elbow because then it's just physics. But straighten that out, bring this down, rotate that in, bring that in, tap that in. There we go. And that is a look. Now we're going to take the arms, and these will rotate up, and there is a little peg there that sits into a little slot on the inside of the forearm, and that just tucks like that. And this arm kind of sits, the hand sits around this little spike right there. And same deal on this side. Just bring this up and peg that in. It's not like a super solid connection, but it keeps the forearms from rotating. Now going to unplug the side sections. They tab in a couple of places. There's this right here where the orange meets the black, tabs in there. And then up here, there's a tab here, right here, that tabs in right up there. So untab this and just kind of swing it out a little bit, and untab it from the other side in both places and swing it out. Now can rotate the legs up, and going into dyno mode, what you want to do is you could see this very specifically shaped slot on the bottom of the foot. This comes down and sits right around all of this going on here. Zoom in so you can see it. You can see all this sculpting in here. Basically, the leg just sits around that. So you bring that out and straighten out the legs. The tail can just kind of hinge out if you want to do that, because you can leave it plugged in. Now this waist section rotates down and we'll click in, straighten out the legs, and bring these sections in more, and they will tab in to the torso. There are a couple of places where they tab in. This spot that was tabbed into the leg tabs into this big chunky peg here, and there is this big tab here, this big orange piece that goes into this slot on the torso. And I find it's easiest to kind of come in from the back and like squeeze to try and make sure everything gets really nice and squished in there. And if you wanted to, this could be your finished mode, which actually kind of works oddly as like a halfway to like a wear dyno mode. But to finish this up, you take the dyno head and actually leave it like this for now. You want to take this entire orange panel here and rotate that up along with the dyno head and the robot head, and this will click into place. And when you're going back into dyno mode, you want to push this down until it clicks, and then there's this little slot on the back of the robot head that goes over this tab in the chest. So you want to unclick it and then push that down until the head tabs in. So bring this up, click it out. Now this dyno head can untab and just kind of sit in the back, and then the robot head, just kind of raise it up and rotate it around. So I just find it's easiest to like rotate it from this angle and then bring it down rather than rotating it like this. It just doesn't seem to want to rotate if you go like a straight 90 degrees. And there, kind of, we have Jawbreaker in his robot mode. And you can also unplug the tail from the butt if you prefer to do that. You can leave it in there. You can even like angle it up like this if you want, or rotate it around and angle it up like this, which kind of works. Or like leave it plugged in like this and just make it look like he's got a tail. But anyway, this can unplug and go into his hand so that he has like a tail whip sword. And there we've got Jawbreaker and Aftermath in their respective robot modes. And here the height is a bit more like, here they look more like Deluxes, especially when we get into size comparisons. Aftermath is definitely the winner for me in more ways than one. So we will look at him in more detail after we look at Jawbreaker. But this is a cool pair of figures. Unfortunately, I didn't mention this at the beginning because I forgot, but unfortunately, when I got these guys, hashtag was not available. That still has not changed last I checked, but I want to get deluxe hashtag. I just haven't been able to find one, and I don't want to get the car version immediately, like if I can avoid it, because the cost is so much more. But yeah, these two are pretty neat for what they are. So I'm going to put Aftermath off to the side again. Jawbreaker's proportions are weird. I don't mind it that much, especially like for one, I like that it's different, but also like the arms come down way far. But when I looked up reference photos, that's kind of how far down they come in the show model anyway. So this is actually more accurate than the warrior figure. So there's that. But yeah, I kind of dig the gigantic arms and like beefier torso and like smaller legs and like waist section. The only thing that bums me out about this guy is the lower half of the body, which we'll get to. But the deco is pretty good. Not accurate to the show. Does not look as good as its car version. But what's here is good. You get a lot of color separation between the yellow plastic, the orange paint, the orange plastic, gold paint, gold and metallic blue paint in a lot of places. You get the Terran Autobot? Maybe it's not Autobot. I don't know. I haven't watched the show, but like the Terran symbol on the chest. The head looks great, which we'll look at more in detail in a minute. He's relatively clean for what he is. You get the dino head sticking out back, but like it does tuck into the chest a bit, so it doesn't stick out too far. And around back, yes, he's a little bit hollow, but like the forearms are actually filled in pretty well. The backs of the legs are a little hollow, but like it's a $20 deluxe Earthspark toy, and the backs of the shoulders, but like, yeah, it is what it is. You're not going to be looking at him from that angle. From most other angles, he looks just fine. And yeah, he's cool. I dig the proportions. I dig the design. The head is interesting looking. It kind of evokes the dino head where you've got the little like horns towards the back, but not exactly. But like, I feel like that's kind of the point. No pun intended. Also, the thorny eyebrows are kind of funny. Like the colors here are great. I like the purple, or not purple, the orange with the gold. That accent works really well. The metallic blue face looks great. And like the pink eyes work so well. So well. It also helps that they're nice and big, but like those eyes pop so nicely. And yeah, it's a neat sculpt. It's a neat design. It's definitely weird, but I dig it. The head is on a ball joint. It can look up and down and tilt side to side and rotate 360, though you kind of have to be careful because of the dino plank back there. The arms are pretty much like the dino legs, where you can rotate around and go out to, that's about as far as you can go, but it's not terrible. You get a bicep rotation, you get an elbow that can bend 90 degrees, you get forearm rotation, which can kind of work as like, it's not quite fist rotation, but it kind of works in a similar vein. You do not get any waist rotation. The hips are on ball joints, so they can go forward and back and out. You don't get thigh rotations, but you can use the ball joints as sort of pseudo thigh rotations. And the knees can bend in extremely far. That is way further than they need to bend for the transformation. And they kind of thunk into place when you get them all the way straight. And this is the thing that, okay, I'll get to that. And the feet, you can't go forward and backward with the feet, unfortunately, but you do get a little bit of ankle tilt. It's enough to get the job done, but it doesn't tilt that far. So yeah, I actually do dig this guy, but there are a couple of things I wish they had done differently, and like not anything significant. I actually am fine with this guy's weird proportions. I don't even mind the lack of thigh swivels, considering that this is a $20 Earthspark Deluxe and not a Legacy figure. The thing that bums me out, and also I don't care about the lack of a waist swivel, the thing that bums me out is, one, the knees don't sit straight. You can see there's like this curve to the leg. I don't like that. I wish that you could straighten these out more. And it's just sculpted that way. There's no reason for them to do it like this because this is the back of the dyno mode. So like this could have just easily been cut away a little bit more so that this could straighten out more. And that bums me out. And the other thing that bums me out is I do think they actually got the proportions slightly wrong. And it's not that I think the arms are too long or the legs are too short, it's the waist. There should be a little bit more of a waist here. Like this should come down a little bit more, and maybe he would actually have like something more akin to what we get on Dinobot here, where it's like a proper pelvis design rather than just here's a little exhaust port with some ball joints on it. Like, I just think if that came down a little more and came out a little bit, like just gave him more of like a proper pelvis, I think this would look better. But still, for what he is, I think he's enjoyable. And it also helps that, like, because I'm inclined to want to have him stand up, like stand up straight. And that just doesn't look right to me. And that also does not work with these curvy legs. But I found a thing that really helps is to hunch him forward a little bit and just kind of really play into that stylization with his proportions. Because when he's hunched forward, the bent knees, the constantly bent knees, don't really look that out of place. So I think this definitely makes a difference. Now, Aftermath. I love Aftermath's look. This is really cool. I dig the purple and black, or rather really dark gray. Even with like the light gray, you got some metallic purples in like the knees and the shoulders and the head and stuff. A lot of the truck cab, like the hood section, is the chest, but now it's very slightly transformed, which I really like. I like how the wheel wells kind of angle up a little bit, so it changes that shape, and it changes it just enough to really, restructure the silhouette of the front of the car. So it's not just the front of the car is the robot chest. It's transformed slightly. I really like that. I love how the bumper section in the front splits apart to become these big spiky shoulders, and you get all this really nice silver and purple detail in there now. There's a lot of nice molding on this guy. I like how the back of the truck ends up folding in to become the shins. That looks really good. In the Takara version and the actual show, the legs are more black all the way through. I do think that looks good, but I don't think this looks bad. I think having the lighter gray for the shins is completely fine, and it's the kind of thing where I wouldn't even know that it's wrong if I didn't look up reference photos. This doesn't look out of place. If this toy is the only thing you know of Aftermath, this does not look out of place. But yeah, it's cool. It's very cool. You get a lot of extra, not a lot, but like, you get some extra molded details in like the thighs and the forearms and stuff. And again, I just really love all of this look. Even this hanging off the back doesn't bother me at all, because you can kind of bring it down if you want. You can leave it up if you want. You can unplug the hook and have him. Now you can plug it into the forearm to act as like a hook forearm, but it doesn't really work. You can have him hold it, which also doesn't really work, but it's an option. I kind of wish they had done something where you could like flip the fist in and plug the hook in. I think that would be cool, but doesn't seem to be a way to do that. But yeah, I just keep the hook. I just keep the hook up here, because to heck with it. I think the weapon is enough, and it's just a little tri-barreled gun thing that you can put in his hand, and that's fine, but I prefer to plug it into the forearm because I think it looks cool. And there's just enough of a gap between the silver bit and like where the bottom of the gun sits to go over that tab, which I like. I'm not sure why there's this little hole going through the back of the gun. I don't know if that was like intended to have some kind of functionality, but it's fine. So yeah, Aftermath is cool. The head is also interesting. This is very twisted metal too, with the dark gray for the face, and get these shoulders kind of rotated out of the way. The dark gray for the head is nice with like the purple accents and the vents and the fin along the top. The fin is great too. I love that spiky fin that goes all the way back and is painted all the way back. The face also with the silver and the red eyes is nice. The eyes don't pop anywhere near as much on Aftermath as they do on Jawbreaker, but the head is also smaller and the eyes are much smaller. But yeah, it's a cool design. It fits the rest of the robot mode because you've got these big spiky shoulders too. Now the articulation, the head is on a ball joint. You get a little bit of side-to-side tilt and some upward motion and a tiny bit of downward motion, and then you can rotate the head around. I guess if you want to go down more, you can unclick that panel and bring it down a bit. Otherwise, it starts looking weird. The arms are interesting. They can rotate around. They can technically do a full 360, but you have to like rotate the joint up here in order to get them to do that. But you can do it. Like this is how it's supposed to be oriented, but you can rotate this and then rotate the bicep to make the arm sit like this, and that gives you much freer access, which I feel like basically if you have the arm oriented a certain way, do this, but if you want to get really dynamic with it, that's when you like rotate this out and start to, you know, do other stuff with the bicep. But it gives you options. It's a little awkward to work with, but it gives you options. As you saw, there is outward motion because of that strut. It only goes out this far when the shoulder is like this, but if you rotate it more, it can go up that far. And you can also even use the ball joint to give you basically 90. It's sort of trigger-happy shoulders, but I think it's fine for what it is. You get a bicep rotation, and then the elbow is on a ball joint, so you get about 90 degrees of bend, but you can also rotate at the elbow independent of the bicep swivel, which seems weird. I think this bicep swivel is here because it doesn't swivel completely centered. Like you can see the bicep is off center if you swivel it around 180 degrees. When you swivel it back in, it lines up a little bit better. I think that has to do with the transformation clearances. I don't know, but that's what they did. The waist does rotate. It can't go all the way around because of the stuff back here, but I think what you get is plenty to be dynamic enough. And then the hips are on ball joints that can go out all the way, can go forward to 90, can go back to not quite 90. You can use the ball joint itself as a bit of a thigh swivel, but you do get dedicated thigh swivels. And then you get a double jointed knee. So if you use the top joint, you can bend 90 degrees, but then you can bring the lower joint into it for the transformation and bend all the way in. It doesn't look great from the front, but you get the full knee bend, which is nice. And then the feet, you get ankle tilts, and you can also rotate the foot. It's off center, but you can, if you rotate it out, it doesn't look bad. So you actually get some pretty decent articulation out of Aftermath. I like just everything about Aftermath, the articulation and the design, the transformation, the fact that he's a tow truck, which is, a little bit more unique. I mean, we've had tow trucks, but still, it's more unique. I love all of that. I think it's great. Now, the reason why Aftermath is my MVP out of the two, and is like probably now my favorite Earthspark figure forever out of all of them, is look at this. This is Strika. This is 100% an Earth mode Strika. I know Aftermath is his own character. He is not Strika in the cartoon, but I haven't seen the cartoon, so this is Strika. So while I will be continuing to refer to Aftermath as Aftermath for the rest of this video, once I'm done with this video, as far as my collection is concerned, this is Strika, and I love her. But yeah, Aftermath is super cool, and I just choose to believe that he is Strika. So that is all of them. Let's get Jawbreaker back in here and start doing the wrap up here so we can do our size comparisons. There are the two of them together. And they are, again, like pretty much the same height. Just Jawbreaker looks a little bit bulkier because he's got that weird silhouette. But bring in Dinobot and Ova Prime, who is our tall deluxe surrogate, and Samus. You can see that this is a bit more probably what you all were expecting when I said Earthspark Deluxes. They are kind of on the short side. They're not core size or anything like that, but they are a little bit short. We bring in Burnout. As imposing as Aftermath looks, he is definitely shorter than Burnout by like a full head. So yeah, they are a little bit shorter. And finally, here they both are with the duck tank. And because of their thing, you can't really use blast effects on any of this stuff because they don't have ports or anything on their weapons. But one thing I neglected to mention with Jawbreaker, you can unpeg the guns from the shoulders and plug them into his fists, so you can use that as like a gun. It bums me out that you can't go in from the bottom because the actual size of the peg is different. This just does not want to... Oh, okay, it does fit. Never mind. So I guess you kind of can do this, but there's not quite enough clearance down here for the gun to sit quite right, so it's kind of pushed forward a little bit. But like if you wanted to, you could give him like a dual cannon thing. That's an option. I prefer to just keep them plugged into his shoulders, but you can give him handguns and have the tail pegged into his butt or something if you want to do that. I also saw in the directions the guns attached to his forearms. As far as I can tell, there's no real way to do that. The only thing I've found that you can kind of do is put it into his forearm and like close the claw around it. And it wiggles around, but you can do that. Or you can put the peg into the back of his fist and bring the claw down. And again, it wiggles, but you can kind of do that. So you got kind of options for that. I feel like maybe there could have been a place for this to plug in like underneath, like inside the arm or something, but haven't been able to figure that out. Maybe it's a feature they scrapped, or maybe the photographer was just getting fancy. I don't know. But point is, I enjoy Jawbreaker for what he is. I do think he's definitely the weaker of the two. But, Jawbreaker's fine. I think the proportions are interesting. They're doing something interesting with Dinobots. I can't get mad about that. But Aftermath is the clear winner here. It's such a cool design and really does feel like it's supposed to be Strika, and that really excites me. So yeah, both cool figures in their own right, but I'd say if you get the opportunity to get your hands on Aftermath, absolutely go for it. He is great. Fingers crossed I'll eventually get my hands on Hashtag too, because she also looks really cool. But anyway, that's enough of that. I've said enough and my headphones are dying, so by extension, my microphone. So what do you all think of these guys? Whether it's the Hasbro versions that I've got here or the objectively better painted Takara versions, whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching. And I inadvertently teased it before, but next time we are going to be looking at the Party Wallop. Kind of.